Introducing Officer Stone, aka Officer Patriotic, from one of my videos from a long time ago. Let's see what he has to say.
Can I get your name and badge number?
Officer Stone, badge number 47.
How's it going? Hey, here's my question for you. If you ordered to violate the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and go door to door or person to person, and
No.
let me finish.
You started your question with if you were ordered to violate the Constitution.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
The answer is no, absolutely not.
No, it doesn't matter what the rest of your question is.
Do you believe that going door to door to confiscate law-abiding citizens' firearms would be a violation of the Constitution?
Police officer ought to know better than that. Person is innocent till he's proven guilty.
Considering the Second Amendment?
Yes, if it was just go take your guns and there was no other justification or other legal course that allows me to do that, then yes.
When you say legal course, what do you mean?
So
you mean if they passed an unconstitutional law that said they could do it, would you then do it?
If there was an unconstitutional law passed, then in theory it would be continued to be challenged before I would be ordered to pass it, or before I'd be ordered to execute it.
Officer Stone says if there was an unconstitutional law passed, then in theory it would continue to be challenged before I was ordered to execute it. That's a fair point, but I wanted to touch on it for a second. First of all, that's part of my whole point. What is their personal opinion on it? So if an unconstitutional law was passed and it was upheld, would they still go ahead and execute it? What is their opinion? What do they believe? Is it unconstitutional to take firearms from private citizens? So before you say this ends the conversation, let's consider the fact that even now there is an argument proposed by anti-gun factions that says the Second Amendment was only referring to organized militias. So keeping that in mind, it is not beyond possibility that some makeup of Supreme Court judges or justices one day says they agree, and that the Second Amendment does not apply to private citizens. Considering that possibility and logic, it is certainly possible that what we may consider unconstitutional is upheld as being constitutional, and thus he, Officer Stone, receives such an order to confiscate firearms from private citizens. So again, this is dependent upon his personal interpretation of the Constitution, as well as all other officers' personal interpretation.
Okay, well, let's put it like this then. Let's say they pass a law, contrary to the Second Amendment, that says we're to turn in our firearms. Let's say that law is challenged and upheld, or let's say it isn't challenged. Would you then comply with the order to take law-abiding citizens' firearms contrary to the Second Amendment of the Constitution?
No.
No, you wouldn't? That's what I wanted to know, sir. Thank you very much. You have a nice day.
Have a good night.
First off, his initial answer is absolutely correct to the question the way I phrased it. As a matter of fact, were I standing where he was, I might have answered exactly the same way.
You started your question with if you were ordered to violate the Constitution.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
What Officer Stone seems to be either ignorant of or unrecognizing of is that it happens that laws are sometimes written which circumvent the Constitution yet aren't challenged, or some judge or other Supreme Court case fails to strike the law down. Red flag laws which circumvent due process and possibly the right to face your accuser, which I believe is the Sixth Amendment, though I don't remember right now, among other things, is one example. So to say that a law violates rights or is technically unconstitutional and as such it can't be written, or if it is written it can't be upheld, is contrary to fact. When the people making determination or believing incorrectly that they have the power to legislate from the bench or even redefine or reinterpret the Constitution as they deem fit, often with their own bias and politics being motivational factors, are the ones considered to be part of the alleged checks and balances system, designed to prevent imbalances and rights loss. The checks and balances system is both broken and often useless.
And that's why our government's structured the way it is. Checks and balances.
Who gets to decide who should have their guns taken?
Checks and balances.
Right.
That's right.
But the checks and balances aren't working, or we wouldn't have red flag laws in the first place. That's what I would say.
Regarding a law being challenged, I'm no attorney, and any attorney out there may feel free to correct me, but I believe that just because a law is challenged on constitutional grounds or any other grounds, that does not mean that there is an automatic stay or hold on either enactment or enforcement of said law. If I'm correct, then there is certainly a possibility of at least temporary enforcement of the law and Officer Stone receiving an order even if the law were overturned later. I'm not sure. The main point was, if a law were written, whether challenged or not, whether upheld or not, would he comply with an order if it were given while said law were being challenged but not restricted from enforcement, or if a law were written and then upheld, would he comply to go confiscate firearms from law-abiding U.S. citizens? His final answer was no. To be fair, looking at it from both sides, I'd say the following. For what it's worth, I've spoken with Officer Stone, and I don't find him to be a shitbird, nor someone with the character of purposeful, vindictive, malicious, ulterior motive. He seems to me to be more of a reserved person while at work. He tends to strike me as a person that rather enjoys a good debate, and what may be interpreted by some to be hesitation, opposition, or even deception may not accurately represent who he is in his personal life. Those are my opinions, and now you can form your own.
You started your question with if you were ordered to violate the Constitution.
Okay.
So the answer is no.
The answer is no,
The
absolutely
answer is
not.
No. It doesn't matter what the rest of your question is.